This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 165-inch.
On this episode, we are joined by the voice actor, comedy musician, and rapper, MC Chris.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Well, welcome home, Ethan.
Well, thank you, Dave. As some of you may know, I just got back from seeing 2 Weird Al shows in Chicago, and I had an amazing time.
Ooh, I cannot wait to hear all about them.
Well, technically, Dave, you already did. I told you all about my trip on the 2 ridiculously self-indulgent bonus episodes that we recorded after each of the shows, which will be dropping soon for our Patreon family.
Oh yeah, that's right. We even had some pretty stinking majestic special guests for that first one.
See? You do remember. And don't you also remember when I talked about getting attacked by murder hornets?
Oh, how could I forget that? I had a ton of fun recording those, and I'm very excited to check them out soon on patreon.com/2000inch so I can relive your amazing weekend.
Well, and that's not all. If you're a member of our Patreon family right now, you can listen up through episode 24 Centimeter, which covers all the way through our whirlwind adventures in California.
And remember, our Patreon supporters get to hear all bonus episodes first, including those 2 Ethan-only shows in Chicago that will drop soon. So if you have not already, surf your way on over to patreon.com/2000inch and join our family.
And meanwhile, via our normal channels, our more frugal listeners can listen up through episode 20 Centimeter right now as our lousy, rotten intern Frank released 2 ridiculously self-indulgent bonus episodes earlier this week. If you listen to all the ones that are out for our cheaps, for the regular listeners, you can hear all about our adventures up through the 3 Las Vegas shows.
Well, Ethan, I know you just got home, but do not get too comfortable.
Oh, don't worry about that, Dave. I can't sit down, on account of those murder hornets.
Well, you've got just about enough time to do some laundry, and then the both of us head on right back out to catch the 2 shows this coming weekend in Minnesota.
Oh, I'm so ready to get back out on the road, Dave. We really should mention that not only are we going to see Weird Al in Minnesota, we're going to see something else in Minnesota. That's right, we're making the pilgrimage to the Holy Twine Ball, the biggest ball of twine built by one man, and we're going to check out everything that beautiful Darwin, Minnesota has to offer. Oh, Dave, let's just keep talking about this.
Whoa. Let's calm down a minute. We have to do an ad first.
Okay.
This episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota, beautiful, it's also going to temporarily host Ethan and myself.
For as long as we can remember, ever since we were little kids, we've been touting all that Darwin has to offer on this podcast, and now it's finally time for us to make the journey.
That's right. This weekend, Ethan and myself are loading up our rental car with potato skins and pickled wieners, crossword puzzles, Spider-Man comics, and my mama's homemade rhubarb pie, and we will be visiting Darwin, Minnesota for the first time ever.
And as much as we would have loved to time it just right so we could arrive at 7:37 early Wednesday evening as the sun was setting in the Minnesota sky, our schedule just won't allow it. So instead, we're going to roll in around 11 a.m. on Sunday, July 24th.
And this day promises to be fun as both Ethan and myself not only plan to visit the Twine Ball, we plan to see everything else that Darwin has to offer. And we also plan to buy as many window decals and miniature balls of twine that we can fit into our carry-on luggage.
So if you're in the area or you want to make the journey, please stop by and join us. Our close personal friend Erin is organizing a special meetup, and she says that the mayor of Darwin himself is expected to attend.
We would absolutely positively love to share this experience with as many friends and listeners as we can. So head on over to our Facebook group, group.2000inch.com, and comment on Aaron's post if you plan to attend.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota with us on Sunday. Discover Darwin, more than just the twine ball. And after we visit Darwin, Minnesota, we'll be sure to finally visit discoverdarwin.biz.
Well, before we head on over to Darwin, Minnesota and visit discoverdarwin.biz, we need to check out what's happening in Weird Al related news.
We are pleased to report that El Maestro himself, Ruben Valtierra, has returned to the unfortunate return of the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised Vanity Tour after previously testing positive for COVID-19.
Well, I think it's a really good thing that we wished him well last episode. I'm sure that's what did the trick.
Well, without spoiling anything for these upcoming bonus episodes, Ruben was back and better than ever in Chicago last weekend.
News broke yesterday that Quinta Brunson, on the heels of her 3 Primetime Emmy nominations, will portray talk show host Oprah Winfrey in the upcoming biopic, Weird, the Al Yankovic Story.
Quinta joins the ranks of the previously announced Evan Rachel Wood, Rainn Wilson, Julianne Nicholson, Toby Huss, and of course, Daniel Radcliffe, who is portraying Weird Al.
In the photo released along with the announcement, Quinta can be seen as Oprah and Daniel as Al in what appears to be a walk-in closet filled with Hawaiian shirts and Vans shoes. And Daniel is wearing a necklace made of platinum records.
Weird, the Al Yankovic Story is scheduled to premiere on the Roku channel later this fall. Finally, after 33 horrifying, painful years of waiting, Dave, we can finally see Weird Al's next film.
Well, we won't have to wait 33 years if we want to check out the Gwar documentary, This Is Gwar, because it will finally premiere tomorrow, July 21st, on Shudder.
Limited theater screenings are also happening around the country this week, and Gwar has announced a U.S. tour for this fall.
And longtime listeners of Dave and Ethan's 2000 Weird Al podcast will remember that we interviewed the director of the film, Scott Barber, back in September 2021 on episode 126 Inch, all about the film and Weird Al's involvement.
Well, I guess we kind of jumped the gun on that one, huh, Dave?
Well, I mean, how are we supposed to know the film was going to premiere again on July 21st?
July 21st. Why does that day sound so familiar to me?
Well, of course, July 21st is Belgian National Day, celebrated all around the world, at least by the people from Belgium.
Yeah, but I feel like July 21st it was like a more specific year.
I know. You're probably thinking of Don Knotts' date of birth. He was born on July 21st, 1924.
No, not that. I think it was more recent.
Oh, more recent. Okay, let's see. Well, July 21st, 2010. That's when President Barack Obama signed the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act.
No, not that. It was less recent than that. I feel like what I'm thinking of happened on July 21st, 1989.
Oh, July 21st, 1989. Why didn't you say so? That was the day that actress Juno Temple was born.
Dave! No, that's not it!
Well, let's see. Can I have one more guess?
It better be Weird Al related.
I mean, come on. Don Knotts was Weird Al related. Remember, he flies off with Weird Al in that episode of Johnny Bravo?
Well, I can't argue with that, Dave. Anyway, let's hear it.
Okay, all right. So ready? So July 21st, 1989. That was 2 days before Daniel Radcliffe was born.
No, I mean, yes. That's correct. And because he's the star of Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, he is Weird Al related. But no, that is not what I was thinking, Dave.
Oh, I mean, you weren't thinking July 21st, 1989 was when UHF was first released, were you? Because, I mean, it was.
Well, never mind, Dave. I'm sure it'll come to me. In other news, tomorrow, July 21st, is the 33rd anniversary of the release of Weird Al's first film, UHF.
From all of us here at David Ethan's 2000 Weird Al podcast, happy anniversary, UHF. Wow, I had no idea.
Now, some sad news came out this week. Ruth Buzzy's husband announced that she has suffered a series of strokes which have left her bedridden.
While Ruth is known for being on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In from 1968 through 1973, for which she won a Golden Globe Award and received 5 Emmy nominations, she is perhaps best known for her cameo role in Weird Al's Gump music video as the woman who beats Forrest Gump with her purse, which was a callback to one of her most famous characters on Laugh-In. And you know what, Ethan? I've always felt a special connection with Ruth because her and I share a birthday.
Well, from all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, we're sending a ton of love and support to Ruth and her family at this difficult time.
And in much lighter news, there has been some rumblings on social media about some more exciting Weird Al Yankovic story news.
Composer Zach Robinson posted some photos of what appeared to be glimpses of the score for Weird Al's upcoming film, along with the caption, Recording Day.
It sure sounds like the finishing touches are being made. We cannot wait to see and hear this film in November.
This episode is brought to you in part by vegan burrito restaurant Burrito in Troy, New York, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in a quesadilla Burrito, and Wizard Burger in Albany, New York. Come on down to Burrito and Burrito your Burrito, or hop on over to Wizard Burger for mouth-watering, loaded, dare I say, beefy vegan burgers. From Troy to Albany to Uranus, Burrito, and Wizard Burger feed the hungry with out-of-this-world, plant-based, real food. Always vegan style. Visit burritosquare.com and wizardburger.com to order ahead.
All right, let's move on to this episode's interview.
Dave and I are absolutely thrilled to be welcoming to the podcast. He's someone who has been singing and performing funny music for decades and has some great connections to Weird Al and is currently on tour with The Last Tour. Please welcome MC Chris. How's it going, MC Chris?
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. I am a very big Weird Al fan.
Yes, yeah, we know you're a huge fan. And there's so much to cover, but I want to just establish, should we call you MC Chris every time, or is it okay to call you Chris?
My friends call me MC, so unless you want to be enemies, I would say just call me MC.
Okay, MC.
Yeah, will do.
I love it.
So I got to ask you, Chris, your tour is called The Last Tour. Is this really going to be your last tour?
I get asked this question every day, and I tell everybody time will tell the tale, and we'll see what happens. It's just very difficult to be a single dad with a 7-year-old and no staff and tour the country. And I set up this tour because I felt like I had to if I wanted to get these dates, which I thought would be highly coveted after COVID, although COVID's still happening.
Right.
But I didn't see how I could keep this going because so much is required of you. And I didn't know how my son would feel about it. Turns out my son loves the stage. I can't get him off the stage. And he loves being up there with me. So we've been having a lot of fun and seeing all the sights and traveling around the country.
Wow.
But it is difficult, though. So the main reason I say last tour is because I just don't know how I can be a single dad and this touring performer at the same time. Although I have managed to make it work. We've had a great tour, lots of sold out shows, lots of love, lots of emotion. And it's been a really great experience. But the vibe that I get from the audience is that nobody really wants it to end and everybody wants it to keep going. And so we'll see what happens. I'm sure I'll be doing one-offs continuously, and I will decide the next couple months whether or not I will book another tour for next summer. But we'll see what's happening. It really is dependent upon like if I get work in LA or not, which is where I live. And if that doesn't seem to happen, then I will probably just keep on being MC Chris, which is, I'm very lucky to be able to be him. And that him is me, by the way.
Do you think of MC Chris as a character, or based on what you just said, are you MC Chris and MC Chris is you?
Yeah, my voice changes when I'm MC Chris, and there are times on stage where I like go into my normal voice, and I feel like that's Chris Ward, and I sometimes accidentally speak in the royal we. but I think that it's definitely a character, and there's skits on all my albums, and that is a character. I've made a cartoon, and that is a character with MC Chris in it. And but there's also tons of autobiographical Chris Ward stuff throughout the work, and so I think it's kind of, it's like I have a mental illness, and I can't quite decide who I'm going to be from one second to the next. But yeah, I mean,
That's fair.
I came up with MC Chris originally to kind of survive parties when I was in college, and I just came up with like a more confident version of myself. And it's kind of crazy to me that I'm still doing it, over 2 decades later. But yeah, that's what happened.
Wow.
Is it like Batman, where like Bruce Wayne is his alter ego and he's really Batman? Are you really MC Chris and Chris Ward is the alter ego?
I think I'm really Chris Ward. I think that there's lots of stuff about me that people don't really find interesting at all. Like who I really am. I'm very much like an old person who likes PBS and NPR and old movies, stuff that's like not MC Chris at all. So there's definitely my personal life is very different from this like uber nerdy existence that I live as MC Chris. And what's happened over the past 20 years is that I found out that I am not a really big nerd. I'm into nerdy stuff. I love comics and Star Wars and Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy novels and everything that a nerd likes. But I am not nearly as smart as some of the people that I've met who know everything about everything. And that's not me. I think if anything, I just always kind of was true to who I was, but nobody in hip hop had ever done that before. So it kind of amplified how big of a nerd I was. But I think I was just kind of more of a, casual nerd.
A casual nerd who's exceedingly good at rapping.
well, yeah. I mean, I love hip hop, and I love writing, and I love wordplay, and I really respect lyricism and just trying to make that as interesting and as tight as I possibly can. And I mean, the rappers that I like are very intelligent, funny people. From the 90s. So I've always emulated them and tried to be like them and try to be like my heroes. And I've become kind of a thing unto myself, which is also very weird. But because I even though I'm in the middle of my life, I still feel like a teenage fan when it comes to hip hop.
And how did you get your start in hip hop? It was MC Chris your like first persona that did hip hop, or was there
Well, I was like the only person in my town that listened to hip hop, and I really liked De La Soul and Public Enemy and Tribe Called Quest and Black Sheep and Farside. And I would put them on mixtapes for people, and I would drive around and blast this stuff. And I memorized all of it. And it just became a kind of a party trick that I could like do these songs for people, like just off the cuff, because I memorized all of it. And then I had befriended punk rockers when I was at NYU who did shows, made flyers, recorded themselves, rehearsed. And I learned from them like what being a musician was. And then they started to record me and even let me on stage and tour with them. And I learned so much from that scene. And I didn't know I was kind of getting a real education on what I'd be doing for the rest of my life, but I was. But they called me MC Chris, and I was the only rapper hanging out with a bunch of pop punkers. And it just became like a thing that I've always been kind of an odd man out looking for his tribe, and my tribe at the time were these guys that were into the specific kind of pop punk, released on Green Day's Lookout album or Lookout label. And but yeah, no, I was always this thing, off to the side that was kind of like comic relief. But it's I just was so dedicated to it, and I kept on recording and kept on making things, first on 8-track and then on MTV Music Generator, and then we moved to computers, and when we got into Pro Tools, then we really started to make what sounds like what everyone hears today. But it was an evolution that happened during college. And when I got hired by Cartoon Network, they just found a way to work the music into the shows. And then once people found out that I made this stuff, then everything kind of blew up, and I left Cartoon Network and started touring, but that's a lot for me to say right now. There's much more that happened, but that's kind of how things happen.
Right. Yeah.
I've heard your genre kind of referred to as nerdcore. I've heard that you're also not like a fan of that label for your music. And just thinking from like Dave and I and our listeners, when we go to the store to buy a Weird Al CD, I guess back in the day, sometimes it's under comedy, sometimes it's under rock, sometimes it's somewhere else. How do you classify yourself? And have you struggled with, is this comedy or is this hip hop or is it something else?
Well, I didn't, Spotify has recently taken all my albums off because they're listed as comedy albums, and they did like this big crackdown on comedy albums, which I don't really understand what that's all about. But
man,
they are comedy albums and hip hop albums. And there's like a half hour of skits on every record that kind of were inspired by many of the skits I listened to on the rap albums of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of built this huge skit universe, and I bring in people from Upright Citizens Brigade and to record different parts, and we've been doing that for 20 years. So there's lots of comedy, and the songs can be considered funny. But I think that the bands that I liked growing up were like They Might Be Giants and Beck and Ween, and bands that just didn't really like having genre classification. They really just were jumping all over the place all the time because they were really commenting on everything that they experienced or satirizing it or just messing with it. And that's kind of what I was always doing. I was always trying to just mess with different things, mess with different genres. Over the years, nerdcore has in the LA Times recently, it was a crossword puzzle clue, MC Chris's genre, and the answer was nerdcore, and that kind of like made me feel like, well, this is something that's been out of my hands for a long time, and you really never get to decide what you're called or what you are, and that's up to other people. I think I just didn't like the genre too much because when I first started, a lot of people in the genre were attacking me. And so I didn't really like the music. I didn't really like the people, and I didn't really want to be included in it. Over time, I chilled out on that because I realized it felt like I was turning my back on people and a scene. And, I've never been a part of a scene. Even the pop punk scene that I was a part of, I was still this weirdo in the scene. I was not really a pop punker. I was never really a part of anything. And my whole life growing up, I never was a part of things. So I think it was very difficult for me to be considered like the head of this genre or the creator of this genre. But over time, I just stopped caring about it, and
Right.
a rose is kind of how I looked at it.
Now, how would you describe nerdcore? Does Weird Al fall under nerdcore, or does there have to be like a strong hip hop element?
I always thought of Weird Al as like parody music. Although his medleys aren't necessarily parody, they're really well executed. Just kind of time capsules. But I think that I think Weird Al has always kind of just been a chronicler of the age, whatever age he's experienced, whatever's going on in the world. He's there to say, I'm reporting on this event or these events, whether it be Michael Jackson or Madonna or Nirvana or whatever it is. He's just kind of like a mirror that's being held up to pop culture. To say that he's one genre or another, I think doesn't really apply. But I think comedy might be the most appropriate. I know that's growing up. That's where I would see his albums and know to find him. But I think that it's kind of like he's beyond classification as well, unless of course you wanted to say polka, and then I would say that's probably the most appropriate genre classification.
Yeah, I think you said it well that, just like it's hard to find, pin yourself down to one genre. I think it's, yes, Weird Al definitely falls under comedy, but I think with all the different musical styles that he does and all the pastiches and the parodies, and you said the polkas, it's hard to put him into one category. You could say he does pretty much everything.
Yeah. I think classification is it's just for, critics and fans that need to like have this regimented approach to music. And I think that what I've always been drawn to are the people that just were against that. And I remember hearing early on when people were calling me this like the king of nerdcore, that Bob Dylan didn't like being called the king of hippies, and he didn't like the associations that were kind of thrust upon him in the beginning of his career. And I related to that it's not it's so out of your hands, and you're oftentimes music is created in private, and it's like you're bearing your soul, and then basically the universe's reaction is, this is very similar to all this other stuff, and it makes you feel less special and more anonymous and more invisible. And I think so many artists into making music to feel to not feel that way.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
And I guess before we get too far into your connections with Weird Al, I'm just kind of curious, how did you discover Weird Al? What was your first exposure to Weird Al and his music?
Well, I was an 80s kid, and we had that little cable box with the red numbers on it. And,
Yeah.
I would watch MTV. I would skip school to watch MTV. I loved MTV so much. I was just watching it religiously, and it like programmed my brain like they say how TikTok is kind of reprogramming kids' brains today because these videos are so short. I mean, I always kind of thought in terms of music videos growing up, which is weird because I've never made a music video. But I just worshiped this stuff, watched it as often as I could, watched it all day. And in that first couple of years, I was there, and so was Weird Al. And I remember Beat It happened, and I remember it being in summer camp and parodying the Go-Go's and lip syncing and performing and making up my own lyrics. And I think that was clearly influenced by Weird Al and how much he affected like what I gravitated towards. Like he was laughing at this thing that was taking itself incredibly seriously. And then there'd be this clown that would come on and joke about everything. And it was very awesome. Like the Michael Jackson was such a big deal. Then to have someone kind of show up with the same production value, just making fun of it was like a mind blower.
Yeah.
But I remember being a little kid pretending to sing the Go-Go's and saying, smell my feet instead of we got the beat. And I think that was very, I think that was clearly me emulating Weird Al, and, and it was cool to watch him kind of grow with music. And it wasn't until college where my punk rock friends would say, you need to listen to this whole album, because I had only heard the singles. And once I started listening to the whole albums, I was introduced to his medleys, and I realized that he was not just a comedian, but this really amazing artist. And he was really great at the accordion, and he was really great at putting this kind of polka spin on modern music. And I really that really blew my mind, because I never really thought about a comedian being also talented. I know that might sound weird, but I never thought of it as being like something that could also show like this great intelligence. But that definitely became who I was, or who I am today, where I put so much effort in my lyrics, but at the same time I try to keep it funny, but I also completely commit to what I'm doing and take it very seriously and try to do the best job I possibly can and show lots of musicianship. I think he kind of broadened my mind as in terms of like, what do you expect from a comedian?
Yeah, he's sort of the gold standard.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people.
And I continued to parody music in my career. I did. I heard "Call Me Maybe" today on the radio, and I just was brought back to this. I did a whole bath salts parody of that song called "Tasty Face," which is about zombies. And I did lots of parody songs, and I did them throughout my career as MC Chris. And I think if Weird Al had not done the same thing, then I wouldn't have thought, well, I have to uphold this tradition and do my own take on some of these things. and I still do it. And so it's still something that I do.
And when you were working at Adult Swim, I saw that you worked on The Brack Show and Space Ghost, and those are two shows that Al has done voice work on. Did your paths cross at that point?
I actually did. I worked at William Street as an animator and production assistant, and it's so weird. They ended up having me do everything, like any kind of job there was to do. So I would actually do sound editing. I would edit together the entire episodes for Brack, and I would get to hear all the outtakes of Georgia Kai and Weird Al and stuff like that. And I get to assemble these shows. And but yeah, no, I don't know if memory doesn't serve in terms of whether or not I worked on Weird Al's show, but I think with the Weird Al show might have happened while I was at Aqua Teen, and I saw that from afar. But I always liked the selection of guest stars and how they would go about selecting people. When I was in NYU, I interned on Pete and Pete, and
cool.
I loved how they would pick rock stars to be in the show. I remember asking Frank Black to be Santa Claus for Pete and Pete, and which is something I don't think he did, but I remember sending out press releases to famous musicians trying to get them to be a part of the show. And I liked that. I liked who Space Ghost was picking to be on the show, or who the Brack Show was picking to be on the show. I always liked that taste because it always felt very alternative and weird and kind of, not exactly corporate, although everything was corporate, of course, but it felt kind of cool. And, but yeah, no, when I worked on there, I got to do Sulu and folks like him and a lot of Andy Merrill, of course. And, but yeah, no, I don't think I worked on the Weird Al episode. And I don't think I worked on the Weird Al being on Aqua Teen. Was he on Aqua Teen? He was just on Space Ghost. Space Ghost, I worked in just the last few episodes that they created for Space Ghost, which was a thrill for me because I had been a fan since the 90s. And that was a great thing to be a part of. And I was really happy to draw Zorak's foot. And, I was I was beaming in those moments where I got to kind of play with some of the things that I had adored or I had loved from afar.
Yeah, cool.
That's incredible.
And I guess since we're on that subject of Adult Swim and stuff, how is it that you got into doing voice acting?
Well, I was at Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, and I was working in the box office with the girl who had also recommended Dana Snyder to the creators of Aqua Teen, and she and I worked at the box office together. And one night we went out drinking at McManus Pub, which is where everybody went at Upright Citizens Brigade in New York City after a show of improv. And this was very, very early on when it was a very small theater. And my friend John Ross Bowie was in a punk band called Egghead, and they were on the same label as Dirtbike Annie, which was this pop punk band that I lived with. And we went to go see John Ross Bowie do some comedy, and it blew our minds. And Rob Corddry, I think, was in his group. And I just knew that was something I wanted to do. So I started to take classes, and I paid for those classes by working in the box office. And the girl I worked in the box office with was friends with Dave Willis. We all went out drinking one night, and I didn't have any money. And I just convinced Dave to buy me so much beer because I could drink a pint of beer in under 3 seconds. And that was my big trick. Really
wow.
was that was my big problem, really. But but I had made him laugh so much that night. He handed me his business card. He said, "We could use somebody like you where I work." And it had a picture of Space Ghost on it. And that, I was like, whoa, because I had wanted to work for Disney since I was a little kid. I had drawn pictures my whole life. I always drew stuff. I went to art school, and I never studied animation, but I always could draw. But I got really enamored with screenwriting and writing in college. And so I kind of stopped drawing. And then I got into improv comedy. And I said, man, I don't think I could live in Atlanta. That feels a little weird to me. And he said, "Oh, okay, well, here's my friend Adam over here." And Adam is making this show called C-Lab. So I made Adam laugh. I drank a lot of beer with Adam, and Adam said, "Come and interview." And I said I could draw really well, and and they hired me as a animator, but then they made me a character, and then they put my music in it.
Right.
And I worked with them for a little while until things weren't cool anymore, and then I moved over to William Street proper, which was in an old carpet factory in Atlanta. And while I was at C Lab, I started getting roles in different pilots on Cartoon Network, and then I moved over to William Street and started to take part in like all the shows and do voice and writing for like everything that was being made there at the time. But I'd also been working on MC Chris, and that had grown in popularity as soon as people found out about it. And so eventually it got to the point where I was like, I'm making more money with this music thing, and I foolishly left Adult Swim to go pursue a music career. And I've been doing that for about 15 years now.
Wow.
I should have stayed, though.
Should you have, though?
Well, I wouldn't have. People come up to me every night of this tour, and they're like, "We met because of you. We have 5 kids. They're all named Chris." Every night people are and telling me how I've changed their lives, or I stopped them from committing suicide, or I helped them meet their love of their lives. And so I've affected a lot of lives. And so it's weird to think if I hadn't done this, then none of that would have happened.
Right.
I think just like Adult Swim, I think MC Chris kind of filled a void, for a certain time period before a bunch of other people did the similar things. But I think that, it's difficult because I want back in the animation industry. So now is when I'm like, oh, had I not left, then I'd still be in it. But now, as I feel like things are winding down, and I'm kind of easing into middle age and fatherhood, I wish I was making cartoons again. But we'll see what happens. I live in LA, and I plan to go home and write some more and start pitching things, and we'll see what happens.
I don't know if you're joking about your fans having 5 kids all named Chris or not, but it made me think of...
Think about that, but they do say, like, we met because of you. We have 4 kids. I think someone said that.
Right. How do you feel about people with MC Chris tattoos? Do you get freaked out by that?
No, I feel a little bad for them, to be honest. Because it was a very like trendy thing at the time, but maybe do they feel the same way? One person said, like, I have this tattoo and my friends give me hell about this, but I love it. And because I love you. And in Tampa, one girl was like, look at it. She was like, going to beat me up. And, I think, it's just part of being when you connect with people in a very strong way. You make this connection to them, and it kind of represents a time period. But obviously the earth keeps on spinning, and that time period ends, and then you have these tattoos forever. I have tattoos that I want to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
But people show me their tattoos, and they do not seem ashamed about it or sad about it. I just, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome or whatever they call it, but I always am like, why does anybody like me? Why would anybody come to my shows? Why would anybody buy my music? I never can really wrap my head around people liking me or doing, cult like things like tattoos. It always kind of blows my mind, because I've always felt like, I can't believe that this is me that they're talking about, but they are. This is my life, and it's just very strange. That's all.
I'd like to transition a little bit into some of your music, Chris. And the first one that stands out to me was you did a cover song of Dare to Be Stupid from your Apple Tummy album. Can you tell us how that came about?
I was celebrating the Transformers movie, Michael Bay's Transformers movie. And I think I was promoting maybe a screening I was doing of Transformers in Eugene, Oregon. And I think Paramount had sent us a bunch of posters. And so I had written, I didn't write it obviously, but I just come up with the idea to cover this thing. And I had a guy who had made some songs on my album make up a new track for it. But it's funny because that song meant so much to me on a personal level. I had seen the Transformers movie in theaters, and there was a swear in the movie in the theaters that I won't repeat now because my son's in the room, but it wasn't on the VHS. And I remember renting the VHS with a buddy in junior high, and I was like, come on, let's watch this. And I had to really convince him, you know, like, you really didn't want to watch this. Like, people didn't like watching cartoons after the time period of what you call being a kid. And a lot of my friends were also like my enemies, where they'd hang out with me, but they'd also like bully me at the same time. And I remember watching the VHS of Transformers, the animated movie, or the motion picture. I don't know exactly what it's called. But Dare to Be Stupid came on, and all the junk bots are singing this song. And the guy I would pick this movie out, and I was at his house at a sleepover, and he looked at me like, you are the lamest person I have ever, you know, had to deal with in my life. This is the stupidest movie I've ever seen, and this is the stupidest part of that movie. And it really stuck with me. So when the time came for me to cover this song, I was like, I want to do this song because I actually love this song. And a lot of my adolescence, or just my whole life growing up, it was all about like, no, I actually love this, and you're wrong, and I'm right. This is great. And I think I also did Jeopardy, but I made it about. I think I did Jeopardy, and I would change the lyrics a little bit, and but yeah, you know, I think this is in one way of letting everyone know that, like, I know about this secret Weird Al language, and I know that no hip hop, no rapper would ever acknowledge Weird Al's existence. You know, but I wanted to let everyone know that, like, all my music is tongue in cheek, just like Weird Al's music was tongue in cheek. And so I felt like by covering his songs, I was kind of cluing everybody into the fact of, like, what world am I coming from, you know, and that to not take my music too seriously, or take me too seriously, because I am a student of Weird Al. In effect, I am like just a new version of him. And so I think I did those covers to kind of communicate to my audience that, like, this music means a lot to me, and I hope it informs you on how you should, like, receive all my music, and how you should consider all my music, that it's all kind of a joke, and it should be funny, and it should be lighthearted, and you shouldn't be too serious about it. And then they went and got tattoos.
You mentioned your cover of I Lost on Jeopardy, and that was on 26 and a half, a tribute to Weird Al Yankovic. I love that. I'm curious, what was your thought process behind picking that song to cover?
I don't even remember. Was that, I don't know. I've done a lot of tribute things, like Dr. Demento, and I've done lots of different things over the years. And I don't remember at all what I was thinking when I wrote that, to be honest with you. Or when I covered that, I should say.
Right.
But I think I knew that my mom always watched Jeopardy. And so I think I actually put in some Jeopardy, like, references into the song. I don't know when. I'd have to look at it again, how I changed the lyrics, but yeah, I wouldn't ever do a straight cover. I would always try to, like, make little tiny changes just so I could leave my fingerprints on it. But other than that, I don't recall. I'm surprised that it was a part of something. A lot of times I was just, like, doing things that were in my head, and not even thinking about mixtapes or them being a part of larger projects. But if you say it is, then it probably is.
It is.
Yeah, I've been somewhat mentally incapacitated for the majority of my career. It's not until recently that I've come out of that fog, and I'm pretty amazed at all the things that happened within that fog.
One parallel that I don't think we can get away with not pointing out is, you know, obviously you have quite a connection to Star Wars, and Al does too, with The Saga Begins and Yoda. And, you know, you can't go to a Weird Al show without the audience expecting to hear Yoda or The Saga Begins. And I have to assume that's the same for your shows when it comes to Fett's Vette.
Yeah, no, I make the joke that, like, if you go see Chumbawamba, if they don't play I Get Knocked Down, you know, then there's going to be hell to pay. And that the audience would crucify me and run me out of town if I didn't play this song every night. And it's how I close my show. but yeah, no, it is like, that is my big song. It's been in a Kevin Smith movie. It's been on Adult Swim, and it's how and why I have with so many people. And so, yeah, no, it's definitely that I have to play it. But to be honest with you, I love performing it because it's the song that everybody knows. So we are kind of singing it together. And I always feel like the song's final version is when it's sung with a crowd and they know all the words. And that's the one thing that everybody knows. So I love that part of the show every night.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so cool.
And so you were kind of championing Boba Fett before he, got his own spin-off series and Mandalorian and stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of people are giving you credit for maybe that resurgence of Boba Fett and his character and his spin-offs.
Well, I talk about it every night in my show that when I was little, my brothers were very territorial with the action figures that we played with. They got to be Luke Skywalker. They got to be Han Solo. They got to be Darth Vader. But because I was a little guy, like I was really tiny, I had to play tiny characters. So I got to be Yoda. I got to be R2-D2. But I made the most out of it. I had said that Yoda's flashlight on his belt was actually his lightsaber, and he's this Jedi who actually flips around and is really great. And that R2-D2, his main component, is actually a thruster, and he could fly anywhere he wants to go. And which is very prophetic on my part. And one Christmas or one birthday, I was given Boba Fett. And I knew, and this is before, when you're a kid, you don't know about pop culture. The world is your neighborhood. But I never got any vibe from my neighborhood that this character was cool. And nobody ever talked about it. And there were no posters up or there was no fandom about this character. But I think it was because I owned him. And I was so used to playing these smaller characters that I knew I had something cool on my hands. He had this little dart on his wrist. He had the jetpack. He had this really cool looking armor. And I just knew he was special. And I held on to that figure my whole life. It would be on my desk no matter what I was going through, no matter what college I was at or what town I lived in. It was always with me. So when the time came to write a song about something that was true to me, that's the thing that I picked. And I had written it after Phantom Menace. You can kind of tell that I'm writing it after Phantom Menace, before Attack of the Clones. We don't know what his backstory is beyond the legends and the novelizations. But I, came up with my own ideas and kind of told my own story about him. That it's kind of like this sweet spot before he becomes the source of all the clones, which is kind of, or his father becomes the source of all the clones, which is kind of changes how you think about Boba Fett. And I wrote this song right after Phantom Menace, when Star Wars fandom had kind of come back into style. And but I was always really into this stuff. I was going to see the trailers when Phantom Menace came out. I was going to see Meet Joe Black just to watch the trailer. And I was on Ain't It Cool News every day, reading about all the worlds and all the things that they had planned. And I was really totally in. And so it was something that was like a lot of my life, because I've been very isolated for a lot of my life, as most Weird Al fans have been, until they go to that show and they realize there's so many people like them. I was just very isolated and alone, and didn't know what other people knew or liked or enjoyed. Didn't know about conventions, or that, that everybody was a Boba Fett fan. And so I think I was definitely lucky enough to have that idea where I decided to be true to myself and to write a rap song about what mattered the most to me. And so I was just ahead of my time in that. And eventually it became like so widespread, comedy rap and videos about things like in pop culture. It became so huge that's really weird to think there was ever a time where I was the first person doing it, it's really blows my mind. But at the same time, I like that it comes from this really innocent place of, let me just talk about something that I like privately in my room, to cheer myself up. I had just been fired from my job and I was feeling pretty down on my luck and feeling pretty hopeless. But this song had just opened up so many doors for me. It got me my job at Adult Swim, and it eventually led to a career in music, and I got to go to Skywalker Ranch and meet George Lucas and watch Revenge of the Sith with George Lucas sitting right behind me.
Wow.
And I got to see Howard the Duck's guitar, and I got to do all this cool stuff. And became friends with Boba Fett at conventions. And Jeremy Bulloch would come out to this song on stage, and Kevin Smith put it in a movie. And one night Kevin Smith had me come over to his house, and he's like, "I got you something." And it was this framed picture of Boba Fett in front of a Corvette. And I was just like, "This is so crazy that this all comes from this place of just being alone and thinking that there's no one in the world that likes you or relates to you." And it was very kind of life affirming to see that everybody connected with it, and they still connect with it now, which is why it's so fun to like be out on the road and performing this song again and seeing everybody freak out. And it was very cool when the shows started for Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, and people were just my lyrics became like the title of a lot of the articles that were being written about these shows, and especially Book of Boba Fett. And I don't know if I'm the reason for the why Boba Fett became so important in the Star Wars universe. That'd be a pretty bold thing for me to say, but I do know that it's really, the proof is in the pudding that people consider my song synonymous with him, and that it gets brought up so much by just really, really big companies and really big people, much more famous than I, and that it was a very widespread thing. And I think it's so widespread, I have no idea like exactly how big of a thing it is. But I do like that it came from this very small, isolated place, and that was very true to who I really was. And then it connected with so many people, and it kind of just showed me that everybody who is suffering alone, and that they actually are connected to all the other sufferers that are out there that are isolated and feeling like nobody gets them or nobody relates to them or nobody's connecting with them. It turns out we're all connected, and that song proved that to me.
So for people who are looking for another connection between, Weird Al, MC Chris, and Star Wars, there is if you Google it or you go to College Humor, you can find a little video clip called Star Wars Cantina Auditions. And in that, Weird Al plays the role of Twi'lek, and of course, MC, you play Boba Fett. And that's a really cool little, fun little video clip that's out there.
Yeah, I was very lucky to be brought in and asked to do that. I think I got to meet Liz Phair that day, and I was like a really big Liz Phair fan in college, so that's why I was really thrilled about it. It's like the only time you ever see me on camera with anything, because I'm just never really on camera. But yeah, no, it was really great to take part in that, and I love that, again, that association between me and the character was like further solidified in this bit.
Right.
And there was like a Lucasfilm representative there, and he was like a fan, and all that stuff is always weird. Like I've been to ILM a couple times and met staff members and been given the tour, and it's really weird that these people consider themselves my fans when I'm like obviously such a huge fan of their stuff.
Right.
But yeah, no, I love that the College Humor brought me in for all different kinds of things over the years. I was very happy that they, were these nerds that were finally allowed to be content creators. I think being involved with Adult Swim in the early aughts, and then having this song that became so connected to this universe, I think it's kind of like an entire generation was brought up on this song, and about the message of my music, which is to feel good about yourself and take pride in who you are, and love the things that you like and celebrate yourself. And it was cool to watch all those people grow up and then become content creators and become creative people in their own rights and see what they do. And it was obviously awesome whenever they would say, come on in and help us make something, because I always love to collaborate.
Were you able to actually meet Al on the set for this video? Or you've met Al, right?
No, I didn't meet Al. I met Daughtry and Liz Phair, and Daughtry was dressed up like Darth Maul, which is very funny. But the weird thing is that Weird Al has me on his Christmas card list, and he writes me and tells me happy birthday every year. and which I have no idea why or how he got my information. But I always write about how much I love him, and sometimes I'll just like start word vomiting at him about just I'm such a fan. If I did meet him, I probably wouldn't be able to compose myself. There's lots of people like that I'm still very much a fanboy. And but yeah, no, I've never met him, but I do get these little notes from him from time to time that make me feel like I have been accepted by, the Nerd Council.
Yes, that's amazing. The Nerd Council, I love that.
Well, my son is really into Star Wars right now, and so we're always like watching Anakin get rebuked,
right?
from
right.
being Weird Al contacting me. It feels like Mace Windu saying, "Have a seat, young Skywalker," but in a good way.
Right. I wanted to ask you about, you've worked with Cybertronic Spree. We're big fans of them, and they've been on the podcast, and we know they're big Weird Al fans too. How did you get connected with them?
I met them at Dragon Con in Atlanta, and I just thought they were really cool, and I love cover bands. I just feel like cover bands are like the lifeblood of America, and so we had actually set up an entire tour that we were going to do that got canceled because of COVID. And I would love to try to set something up where we do some shows together. But
that'd be so cool.
Other than playing Dragon Con together, I just knew I wanted to work with them or do a tour with them, and we did have it all set up. But then the world ended, and we unfortunately couldn't do it. But other than that, there's no great connection. Other than I just I love what they do, and I love how unabashedly nerdy they are, and it's a very cool thing. Hopefully we can do some shows sometime. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're currently, as we mentioned earlier, you're out on tour right now. MC Chris, The Last Tour, and you're going everywhere in the U.S. now through mid-August. And you're actually finishing the tour, so I guess the last show of the last tour in Los Angeles, and Jonah Ray is opening for you, covering Weird Al songs.
I know. It all comes full circle.
It's so cool.
I love that it's him, and I love that he's actually doing what he's doing. I think it's very perfect. And there's just so, when I play conventions, there's so many bands that I find out about that are doing nerdy things. And I love that there's all these different kind of ways to celebrate our culture. And I think this is going to be a great way. I've wanted to meet Jonah, and so it'll be a thrill for me. I'll be fanboying a little bit at him because he kind of created this movement in LA, nerdy movement that went away when the comics bookstore went away. But it'll be cool to meet him and touch base with him because I think he's he switched over to other things like MST3K and. But yeah, no, it's really an honor that he gets to play. It feels very Nerd Council-y that I'm anything associated with him. But yeah, no, I'm very excited about the show, and I have a feeling like other things will get added to this show. It just seems like things keep on happening and things keep on being added to it, and I wouldn't be surprised if the show gets cooler than it already is, which is pretty cool to me. But I'll be happy to be doing a show in LA. Our show in Anaheim was like our most well-attended show, second to like Denver and Tampa, and so I think LA is where I live, so it's really nice to have this following where I currently reside, and I love having that support. So but yeah, no, I can't wait for this show. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, so specifically for that one in LA, it's ending the tour on August 13th at the Lodge Room in Los Angeles. tinyurl.com/mcchristla gets you right there to the tickets. And then for the rest of your tour across the US, mcchrist.com, there's all the information there. And the rest of the tour, you are performing with Crunkwitch. They are opening the tour, and mcchrist.com has all that information as well as a lot of other great stuff.
Yeah, no, there's tons of remixes of Fett's Vette if you go to the website, if that's something that floats your boat. Lots of cool stuff there. But yeah, no, I've had a really great time touring this summer. It was really difficult, for me as it was for many others to be cooped up for 2 years. and not to be able to just perform in front of people. And I love performing, and Crunkwitch is a great opener that I feel honored to be performing with them every night. And I love these shows. People are really getting wrapped up into me calling it the last tour. I tell them time will tell the tale, but regardless, they're crying. There are people being brought, their friends are holding them up as they leave. People are very emotional about the connection that we've made together. A lot of people are saying you are the soundtrack of my middle school experience or my teenage years, or I've been listening to you my whole life. And these will be grown men saying this to me. And it's very weird to me that I took part in this generation's upbringing in a positive way that means so much to them, because I didn't have an MC Chris growing up. I had Weird Al, and Weird Al's presence was enough to let you know that who you were was a good thing. But I'm much more like spitting it out and saying you should love yourself and you should be happy with who you are, and you should never be ashamed of who you are, and you should love the things that you like and celebrate everything about yourself. And I'm glad that I had Weird Al, but I'm also glad that fans have me to help them cope with existence, because it can be so difficult for nerds. And we definitely see how a nerd that hasn't been given enough love can turn into a horrible thing. So I like this idea of nerds finding out about this as soon as possible. I want everyone to know that they're not alone and that they are loved and that they are great.
I love it. I think that's such a great message. And Dave and I certainly agree with that. Being fellow nerds.
Well, it's so funny. You have these conventions and you find out that there are so many people like you. So it's hard to imagine that there are still lonely people out there that feel withdrawn from society. And if we can just keep on making these connections and keep on letting people know what the message is, hopefully it can do as much good as it's done before for new generations and for kids coming up. Because unfortunately, I don't think that it's improved to such an extent that my music isn't needed anymore. I think there's always going to be somebody who needs to hear it.
Absolutely.
Well, Chris, as head of the Nerd Council, I was hoping you could help me out with something here. I was going through Weird Al's songs. I was trying to find out which ones probably fall most under the category of nerdcore. I found maybe 3 of them that I came up with, and I'm hardly an expert on nerdcore, so that's why I'm going to the head of the Nerd Council. Maybe you can help me out here.
Well, wasn't it? It's all about the Pentiums.
Yeah, okay, that one was on the list.
Was that his first? I think that was his first really nerdy rap song that he did. I might be wrong about that, but I remember seeing that and feeling like I had something to do with it, and it made me feel really weird because I had watched Weird Al my whole life, and so I felt like, am I affecting culture to such an extent that it's reached Weird Al? And if so, that's crazy. But after everything that's happened in my life, it's possible, because he's now writing me on my birthday. So. I don't know, but yeah, no, I would definitely throw that there in the nerdcore genre categorization. But he might say, what, I don't know if that's truly necessary. I bet he hates having it be put into comedy, when it's been very successful pop music for a very long time.
Right, absolutely, yeah. The other one that I was thinking of, and this one is probably a Weird Al anthem, is White and Nerdy.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think White and Nerdy might have been the first song where I was like, did I have something to do with this? Because it came out, I remember watching it on TV when I was in Atlanta working for Cartoon Network. And yeah. I was wondering if nerdcore had influenced him to write this song, or whether he just thought it's something that rhymed, which is very possible. I think that's more likely that it just rhymed. That's why he wrote it.
I think we're in agreement here that the nerdcore songs, that probably the ones that Weird Al songs that most fall into nerdcore are It's All About the Pentiums and White and Nerdy.
Definitely. Well, MC, this has been a blast, such an honor to get to chat with you about all this awesome stuff. We're so excited that you're out on tour. The last tour, tickets available, mcchris.com. The Lodge Room in LA on August 13th. You're going to be performing, in Jonah Ray with You Can't Call Me Al will be opening. So awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all this great nerdy info with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time.
Thank you once again to MC Chris. Be sure to head on over to mcchris.com for current tour dates and information on how to listen to all of his great music and comedy.
And don't forget, the final show of his tour in Los Angeles will be the highlight of the tour. That's right, our pal Jonah Ray and his You Can't Call Me Al band will be opening the show with their incredible Weird Al covers on August 13th at the Lodge Room in LA.
For tickets, go to tinyurl.com/mcchrisla.
Well, we know what that means. Sounds like we've got a message on the 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Okay, intern Frank, let's hear that message.
Hey, Dave and Ethan, it's Jason Alchel, your guest from episode 47. I just wanted to say it was awesome to meet Ethan at the Chicago shows this past weekend. Dave, we missed you, but hopefully we'll see you one of these days. Hey, also, though, I wanted to just let your listeners know that I don't think you guys do enough justice about these stickers. People, if you're at a show, a Weird Al show, and Dave and Ethan are going to be there, you got to find them. They're going to give you free stickers. Don't you want free stickers? Don't you want to leave with a souvenir? It's great to, you're buying your ticket to the Weird Al show. You might as well make the most of it and get these awesome free stickers. Anyway, good seeing you, and hopefully we'll see you guys again soon. Bye.
Well, spoiler alert, Jason. Yes, we did meet in Chicago, but our listeners will hear all about that when they listen to those bonus episodes.
Oh, Jason, I'm so bummed that I did not get to meet you. Oh, I'm sure we'll meet in the future at some point. And thank you so much for saying those nice things about our stickers. Yes, absolutely. If you are coming to a show that either Ethan or myself or the both of us will be at, please come by and stop us. We've got tons and tons of stickers and fun little giveaways for you. And we absolutely love to meet each and every one of our listeners.
Yes, and we print out fun stickers that, they have our logo, but then we have ones with cool drawings from our awesome listeners and other folks that we've met online who love Weird Al. So we love handing those out, and we hope to see more people at future shows.
This is a special hamster alert to the Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast broadcast alert system, sponsored by Jack Bateman.
We want to take a moment to share an important tip when it comes to keeping hamsters.
Last episode, our tip was to avoid feeding hamsters chocolate or alcohol or caffeine.
Correct! The chocolate contains a chemical that may be toxic to hamsters.
Yeah, but what happens if they have caffeine or alcohol? What was that?
You really don't want to know the answer to this.
No, I think I do want to know. We all do. What are you and the government keeping from us?
Well, okay, fine, but don't tell anyone.
Not even our intern, Frank?
Especially not Frank.
Okay. Well, what is it?
Well, if a hamster is exposed to caffeine or alcohol, they may grow 40,000 times their original size.
Hey, Jack, you better watch your back.
Well, even though he's our sponsor, don't bring Jack Bateman into this.
That is all for this week's special hamster alert via the Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast broadcast alert system.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast is brought to you absolutely free thanks to our incredible sponsors Burrito, Discover Darwin, Jackson Scoggins, and Jack Bateman.
Our podcast is also supported by everyone in our Patreon family, with special thanks to our amazing close personal friend level Patreon supporters, Zeb, Adriana, Allison, Blair, Frank from the Bank, Matthew, Mike, Rim Jams, Jared and Rocky, Javier, Nancy, NES Josh 64, Gus and Alicia, Jake, UH Jeff, Kenneth, Scott, and also thanks to Spunky and everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy our freaking fantastic, family-friendly, wonderful, wild and wacky Weird Al podcast, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/2000inch. There are awesome benefits like getting your name on the podcast, your own private RSS feed, and access to secret episodes. Now would be a great time to join if you haven't already, because you'll be the first to hear our special bonus episodes from the unfortunate return of the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised Vanity Tour.
And do not forget to check out our official merchandise over at shop.2000inch.com. The unfortunate return of the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised Vanity Tour is underway, so make sure you get your orders in today for your Discover Darwin merchandise, so you can join us at the Twine Ball this weekend and show the world exactly how you feel about our podcast and about the great folks in Darwin, Minnesota.
We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans. Join our Facebook community and post about Weird Al by visiting group.2000inch.com, as well as our Discord server for even more riveting Weird Al related conversations. You can find both of them linked on our website. And don't forget, we love it when we receive voicemail via our official patent pending 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline 347 Spatula. You might even hear your message in a future episode.
And for everything about our incredible podcast, including incredible past episodes and incredible past guests, be sure to visit the incredible WeirdAlPodcast.com or the even more incredible 2000inch.com. And while you're there, click on the incredible, ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised bonus episodes to follow along with our incredible adventures on tour, or click on the incredible black and white and weird all over bonus episodes for our incredible special bonus episode book series, where the incredible author John Bermuda Schwartz walks us through his incredible book, page by page and incredible picture by incredible picture.
Keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000inch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thank you for subscribing and leaving reviews on your favorite podcast app. Make sure you're subscribed, because it not only helps the podcast, but maybe if you're good, we'll tie it to the back of your car and you can take it home. I'm only teasing.
Thank you once again to our incredible guest, MC Chris, as well as the incredible Aaron Henry, the incredible Jason Alchill, and the incredible Jeremy Ween. Thank you to the incredible Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our incredible podcast theme song. And thank you to Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thank you to all of you, our incredible loyal listeners, incredible subscribers, incredible Patreon supporters and sponsors, and everyone else who makes our incredible podcast incredibly possible. Even the Red Sox fans.
While I'll stay agnostic on the baseball team front, I do want to thank you for choosing Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. And until next time, remember to gill and chill.
Oh, Ethan, I am so much looking forward to this weekend.
I bet I know why. You're excited about finally seeing Weird Al for the first time this month.
Oh, yeah, absolutely I am. But also, you know why.
Yes, you're finally visiting the Twine Ball. Well, me too, Dave. I'm psyched.
Well, of course, I'm psyched for that too. But, something special is happening on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, your birthday, Dave. You thought I forgot, didn't you? Well, I cannot wait to celebrate it with you.
Yeah, that'll be fun, but, well...
Oh, don't tell me, Dave. I know that you're excited to see all of our friends and listeners who are coming out to the Twine Ball to celebrate with us. That's going to be great.
Oh, yeah, that is going to be great. But, there's one
And I almost forgot. Of course, some of our former guests will be there as well.
Yeah, like episode 69-inch guest Jackson Scoggins, who already confirmed that they would be there, and episode 119-inch guest Josh Johnson, the mayor of Darwin, Minnesota.
And don't forget, our episode 48-inch guest will be there too.
Episode 40... Who's that?
Jackie Rossi? Your wife?
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, so that's what you're looking forward to, right?
Well, not quite.
Dave, what is it? What are you looking forward to?
I am just really, really excited to finally try me a pickled wiener.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 165-inch.
And I'll finally find out who this Spider-Man guy is.
I do get these little notes from him from time to time that make me feel like I have been accepted by the nerd